Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to another live class with Gumption. Tonight we're going to be painting an illustration that I did. So if you are here to do some painting, you'll want to check out those resources in the chat there. If you can't access them, let me know. I'm using a brand new platform tonight to see how I like it and to see if it works better for you guys as we paint live. So if you're new here, my name is Paige and I'm the Chief Pixel Pusher and Paintbrusher over at Gumption. And often, usually most Thursdays, we have a live stream. However, we have had some holidays that are coming up and have happened. So it's kind of affected our live stream schedule just a little bit. But tonight I'm coming to you live at both YouTube and Facebook. So if you're here with me, let me know. Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to see who else here tonight. And if there are any issues with sound or anything, also let me know in the chat as well. So let's see. For this class, we are painting a Christmas cat, and we're going to be exploring light and shadow, warm and cool. And so that's what this exercise really is crafted around. I have done this illustration a couple of different times. I've done it digitally, and I've also done it in watercolor. And I'm just going to share some imagery here with you so you can understand what we're going to be doing. So this is the watercolor cat that I did that we will be doing tonight. And this is in watercolor. So that is the goal. We also can use colored pencils tonight if you want to, towards the end after we lay down some color. So if you have colored pencils and you want to combine those two, we most certainly can do that. And let's see, what else do I need to tell you? The imagery for this class should be in chat. I'm going to plug it back in there one more time, because it looked like maybe it cut off some of my links there. So if you need to grab those, grab them in the comments. They are there for you. And if you're checking in via YouTube, there should be links down below in the description there too. So let's go back to our pictures here. I'm going to show you this other image, which was a digital image that I did in Procreate. And it was a quick color study for this class. And you can see how we're really wanting to have that warmth in the background and that cool in the front. So we're going to be doing that here next. Okay. What else can I tell you? This class usually lasts about an hour. So if you've got that time tonight, hang out there with me and we'll do a little painting. We're going to do a little bit of, I'm going to draw this image out on my paper, and that's probably what takes the most time. So it is possible that we will go over time, but let's hope not. Okay. So, and if you want to join me live tonight, you can do that. You just have to let me know in chat that you want to do that, and I can make it happen for you. So Laurel says that this cat that we're working on tonight looks a lot like her cat Leo. So that is super cool. Leo is very cute. I can't wait to meet Leo in person because, you know, I love animals, but I love cats too. So, all right. So colors we're going to need for this class real quickly. Sorry, we will get there, I promise. You're going to need Indian yellow or a warm yellow, excuse me, a quinacridone burnt orange or a kind of a rosy orangey color, which you can mix. You don't actually have to have a tube of paint for that. We're going to be using ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and ochre, which is a hot pink, just a little bit because we are illustrating some donuts. And you may want to have washi tape tonight and paper towels. I'm going to be using a little bit of washi tape, I think, to straighten up some lines. And you might require an X-Acto knife or a hairdryer. So those are some things you may want to have on hand. And you've got a little bit of time because I need to draw out my image. If you have questions, please throw them in chat. I love this because I get to communicate with my regulars here, families and friends and students. And so if you have questions or you're stuck on something, throw it in chat, please. And one thing I did want to know, if you're looking for the schedule for these live classes, because if this works out pretty good with Facebook and YouTube, I'm going to be scheduling these on both platforms, so you can tune in whenever you want. But if you want to know when that's happening, check out that stream schedule in the link here on the screen, and you can find out what's happening. All right, so I think it is time to switch cameras here. And all right, let's see. Okay, so this is the image that we're going to do tonight. And as you can see, I have set this up so I can easily transfer this to my watercolor paper. And so this is the sketch that I drew, and I printed it out. And then I have just taken, here you can see, maybe you can see I've taken pencil lead, and I'm just transferring that to my watercolor paper that is taped to my desk here. And this is taped too. So I will add another layer of tape here to keep it down. And since I've used this before, if you use a colored pencil when you do this, it makes it a little bit easier for you to see where you've been, so you don't forget stuff. So I'm going to use my ruler here to help me out because I can't draw straight lines, and I'm just going to trace this out really quickly. And all right. So the question of the day is, are you ready for Christmas? It's going to be around here, right around the corner. In a year that has just flown by. I think the older we get, the faster they fly by, but it keeps us on our toes, I guess. 2020 has definitely done that. So I'm just getting these straight lines out of the way so then I can just use, it's a little bit easier to do these curved lines. And I'm not actually going to draw the oval here or the bricks. I might kind of hint at them with my watercolor, but these windows are based on a kind of a vintagey style of window. And this little cat, he is a donut loving, Santa loving cat. So he has a plate of donuts out for Santa when Santa comes to visit. Santa's a big donut fan, I hear, so. So oftentimes my students will hear me talking about warm light, cool shadows, cool light, warm shadows. And this is a kind of a rule of thumb in what they teach you in art school. And it really enriches your work when you kind of work that way, I feel like. And there are some people who are really great at using color and light to illustrate it in a lovely way. So that's what we're shooting for tonight. And I thought, what better than a Christmas cat to get this done? Okay. What's kind of nice about this colored pencil is it's a little bit softer, and it gives me a little bit of a wider line. I can press on it a little bit. And it's very helpful. Did I get the bottom here? I did, okay. Forgetting my curtains here. I thought it would be fun also to do a different kind of illustration for this class, because It's the end of the year. This is the last live stream that's going to be airing on YouTube and Facebook for the year. I'm going to have a Patreon live stream next week, but because I think it's Christmas Eve falls, I think, on the next Thursday, that we won't be having a live stream then. We'll get back to a normal schedule at the beginning of the year. And I think actually moving forward, we'll also kind of explore different kinds of mediums, like exercising more use of colored pencils and maybe even some digital work, because I've been really wanting to share a little bit of information about digital and how approachable and easy it is, or can be. It doesn't have to be expensive necessarily. And I'm trying to hurry, guys. I can't forget to draw the cat in there, can I? It's kind of important. So if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in chat. If you're just joining and you want to paint along, go ahead and grab the resources in chat so you can join in the fun. I have included switch up my pencils here. I've included an image of the finished product as well as a picture of the tracing that you can do with the cat. The hard part is that this is, even if it, at this kind of blown up size, there are still some small details, so just takes a little bit to transfer it, and this also gives you guys, our students, a chance to draw along here. And I'm going to throw up the color list again for you, for those who are just tuning in. These are the colors that we're going to use tonight. Okay. So you can even include a little note. I had a little note with this little plate, but it was too little to see it. Let's see, did I get him in there? I need this. Okay, and there is a line that I'm not sure it made it onto my sketch, but up here I'm just going to put a line in here that indicates the ceiling so you can see that. Okay. Oh, I'm still missing some edges here. Okay. I think that's going to be good. So if you're ready, let me know here in chat so we can move on. This one is quite a complicated little illustration, so it might take you a minute to do that. Okay. Okay, So first I'm going to mix up some Indian yellow for this guy. And that is a warm yellow. It's a beautiful color of yellow. These over here, just so you can kind of see what's happening here. And as I have actually done this multiple times, you know, I kind of know what I'm shooting for. So I'm looking for a pretty decent pigment load with a good amount of water as well. Slopping it everywhere here. Okay. And I think I'm also going to mix a little bit of this Quin burnt orange. Now, if you don't have this color, that's fine. I would just mix a little bit of orange or a little bit of red into your yellow and just warm it up a little bit. Okay. So for this exercise, I found that I really liked using some square brushes for some more precise angles. And so I'm going to be using some square brushes that I have to do that. If you don't have a square brush, don't worry about it. Use your standard, whatever you have. But if you have a round brush, then that will work just fine. And I'm going to try to work pretty fast because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all these areas here warm. So you can see here it's going to be on the inside of this window that we're going to be using some warm tones. And then the cooler tones are going to be on the outside. So in this first area, we're just going to use yellow. I think I'm going to turn this upside down. I think I'm going to start down here. And you don't have to do it upside down if you don't want to. That is fine. Because I drew this, I kind of know what I'm going to run into here. And I could even use a bigger brush than this, but I'm going to make this work. I'm just dragging that bead up to this window here. Outlining this Christmas tree. Whoops, I got it a little bit in. Then maybe adding just some more pigment here. And then I'm going to go into this area here. And I'm trying to work fast so I can be faster than the paint drying. It's pretty warm in my room here. Again, if you have comments, don't be afraid to throw them in if you have questions. Okay, so as you can see, if I turn this around, we've got all of that area in. And then I'm going to just drop a little bit of this color in up here. Kind of see what it does. I'm probably going to kind of layer this a little bit. Maybe even put some over here. creating kind of ambiance here. And so while you're doing that, I think I am going to try to dry this with my hair dryer. So I'm going to try to mute you, and hopefully I'm able to mute myself. Let's see, I bet I can do that over here. Okay, well, hopefully that muted me. So what we're going to do next is we're going to mix up a pot of cool color. Now, if you don't have ultramarine blue, that is okay. You can use a kind of a blue-gray mix if that's what you have. I'm going to use ultra blue. And I'm just putting a little water in my dish here. And then I'm going to hit my ultra blue. And I may actually want to get a bigger brush. I have one handy. Let's see if I've got one handy. Sometimes you can test out what your color is going to look like on another piece of paper. That seems like it's pretty good in blue. Okay, so I will be right back. As you might be drying. I'm going to see if I can snag a brush. So this is a little bit bigger brush. This is called an oval brush. This brush is made by Silver. And I think it's better for washes. And when you're working larger, you're going to want a larger brush. I may actually have to use two different brushes while I'm doing this to get into the little crevices, but we'll see. So everything that's not going to be warm, let me rephrase that. So I'm going to do everything this cool color here. Anything that around the window. And try carefully to get this window here. I may need to get some more paint going. Because this guy, the cat, is in shadow. Looks like I'm going to have to get more pigment here. Trying to work fast so we don't leave marks. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So now I'm going to use my other brush to get in where the window is. Just do your best. Okay, let's see what the moment of truth is here looking at this. Okay. It looks a little wonky up here in this corner, but I think I'm just going to leave it and then I'm going to dry it. So I'll let you guys keep painting. I'll mute myself and I will dry this and be right back. Okay, so I'm going to tape this guy down, I think, just a little bit. So you can see now, by looking at this, there's a clear distinction between the warm light of the inside of the house and then the cool of the outside of the house. Now we may, it kind of depends on how time will look here. I may have to do some taping of these straight lines here. This should kind of keep it tacked down a little bit. So I have some really narrow washi tape. And when I created this illustration, I really struggled with some of these lines. And if you're like me, you might struggle too. And so one way to kind of help ourselves is I don't want my window frame to be as dark as the building itself. But so I'm going to see if I can tape it off. We'll see if this works. This would be like using masking fluid or, you know, a stencil, so to speak, if you were spray painting something. This way I can get some cleaner lines. Now, if you don't have tape, that's not a problem. You can just keep painting along. And again, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in chat. Okay. Okay. Bear with me, guys. You might actually still be working, and that's okay. 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 And then I'm going to do, if I can get this one up above. I've lost some of my lines, it looks like. But I know it kind of lines up there. So we'll just kind of do our best here. Okay. Okay, so the beauty of using a blue is that you can use that to your advantage. So you remember when we talked about color and how different colors make other colors? Well, we're going to do that by using this blue. And we're going to start adding some detail in. So one thing that we can do is we're going to mix up a little alizarin crimson. And I think I'm going to use a combination of a round brush and a flat brush. Let's see, where are you? Let's see, I knew I had a bigger one. Okay. Make sure they're both wet. So I'm going to take this alizarin crimson and glaze it down here. And if you want a little bit, more rich pigment, you can add a little more pigment there. This is also a great time to do a little bit of lifting if you want to with a brush, clean brush, where you can lift where it's still wet. Okay, so I'm going to do it on the other side here. I just am able to do a little straighter business with these flat brushes than I am with my round. Can add a little extra pigment here. All right. And maybe, let's see, brushes, where are you? So I also have this really long, narrow script brush for line work. If you wanted to just kind of create that line in there, you could. But I think I'm going to leave that for the time being and then move on to our other details. So our another big detail is going to be our tree. I think we'll let this red maybe dry just a little bit, and then we will do the tree next. So I can't remember if I if burnt sienna was on our list, but burnt sienna makes a great gray color when mixed with ultramarine blue. And so I'm going to mix up this gray. This is going to go on the cat. And let's see, what do I have? I guess we'll just use this brush. So this is kind of what we're shooting for. I'm just going to put that there so you can see it. And I'm just going to give this cat some markings. Around his eyes and ears. Kind of around his nose. Because we don't want him to fade into the background. And I'm leaving his ears available for some other color. What's great about this mixture of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue is it creates a nice granulated texture. And I'm going to get his paw. And I think I'm going to lift a little bit of color here just so his arm, you can kind of see what's happening still with his arm. Because I want this to butt right up next to it. Okay, we're working on his other paw. Okay. And while I have this color, I can kind of draw in his mouth here. Top of his nose a little bit. And maybe just lightly put in his pupil here so we can kind of see his eyes. We'll keep working on that, but we are just getting down color right now. And while I'm working on him, I'm just going to put in a little bit of this red, since it's right here, into his collar. Okay. So he looks pretty good here. So I think we can move on to our tree here. And what we can do is, because blue and yellow make green, we can do a wash of yellow over the top of the tree. So I've lost a little bit of my line here for my window. You don't need to do this, but you can, that way I can kind of mark it and see. And I can layer over yellow over the top of this blue. And in theory, it should give us kind of a green color. Now, if you find that it is just not green enough, you can mix a green out of yellow and blue paint. And if you've lost some of your drawing like I have, you can just draw it in later. So I'm just putting in this whole tree. Trying to be mindful of these donuts and the plate that they're on. Now I feel like this could be quite a bit darker. So I think that I will mix a little bit of green to kind of give this a little bit more contrast and really work my value here. So you see all I did here was just add ultramarine blue to this yellow. We can see that we've already made it kind of green, but we can work a little wet into wet because we've laid down that yellow, and just add some more to this. Because I think what makes this illustration more successful is the contrast, the dark and the dark cool and then the warm. And I have this little area here that shines through the donuts. And you can tap in some color if you're needing to do that. We're going to know that this tree is pretty dark because it's facing this window. So I am going to get out the hairdryer and dry this. I'm going to mute you, and this might give you a little extra time too. All right. So let's see. How are you doing out there? Are you keeping pace with me, or am I going too fast for you? Let me know in the chat. I think one color that I forgot to put on my list was indigo. If you have a dark Payne's gray or a dark blue, I think I may do a layer here of that dark indigo on the outside here to really help this kind of pop a little bit. And I know we're running on time. We might go a little over an hour tonight. But I'm going to mix up some of this. You can see it's kind of a dark Payne's gray color. Officially, this is a paint color that or a paint that I made that is a synthetic indigo. Just want to get this outside just a little bit darker. And this would be a good one to test on a piece of paper to see just how dark you can get that. Might just do a little more pigment here. Okay. And I'm going to have to untape this guy to move him around. So I'm just going to press on my tape to try to make sure that it's tacked on there. And then I'm going to go for it. Just want to make this a little bit darker. And I'm going on the outside from there, around that curve at the top. And that's what's kind of nice about a big brush like this, is that we can, it's a lot easier to do this and have more of a smooth kind of line. Okay. And I gotta say, I really love this big jumbo brush. Okay. Making a mess. Okay, I'm going to dry this really quickly. And then we'll get into some of our details here. So I'm going to mute you. Mute me. Oh, good. Laurel, you're keeping pace. That's good. Okay. All right, so I see an area where it's going to be helpful for me to put this green back up here in this corner because the tree kind of moves into this other window pane here. So I'm just going to put a little green here for now so we can define this window kind of pane here. And then I'll just let that kind of dry on its own. And we can start working on some of these other details that we have. So let's see, what did I do with my picture? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Let's see, do I have any of this quinacridone? This is kind of a more red now. I'm just getting paint everywhere. Going to mix a little of this quinacridone here with a little bit of this Indian yellow. Kind of create this orangey color. And I'm just going to do a little painting up here. To show my ceiling. This will also kind of help define my window pane a little bit. I can see where I've kind of missed some spots here, but it's okay. You can probably even go in there with a cool color. It probably would be kind of cool up there. Also, I'm going to go into my little flames behind the kitty here with the same color. So we can kind of create this fire, maybe drop a little bit of alizarin in there. Let it kind of spread out. We can also do the red in our stockings, or you can color your own stockings any which way you want. And you could even start painting in your red Christmas globes. Now mine have sort of disappeared, so I kind of have to kind of guess where they are. Make them up as we go along. Just kind of put them a little bit everywhere. And if you want a different color besides red, you can certainly do that too. Okay. Okay. And even if you wanted to, while we still have the tape down, still you could do another swath of alizarin crimson. Where your curtains are. Now I got a little bit of my indigo into my window pane there and into my curtains, but no big deal. Might be able to scrub that out just a little. Look there. Give some mint to happen. Okay. So now I'm going to work on the fireplace a little bit and use a little bit of my indigo here. And I want it to be more dark than the cat. So I'm using a little extra pigment here because we're recessing this back behind him. So this is the inside of our fireplace. I'm just doing it, and this might also help you kind of draw or paint in your flames a little bit. Just kind of bringing that down a little bit. And maybe kind of warming up this area, kind of mixing these two together. Hey, thanks. Visit Pocatello has a tuned in here. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of our live stream tonight. That's super cool. So thank you. So things are sort of starting to come together here a little bit. And we can use a little burnt sienna here and mix it with our, our burnt sienna, a little bit with our burnt orangey color that we had going on here. And we can start shaping the background a little bit and do our little fireplace. So I'm going to use this again here, down here, and along the back side of the floor here. Oh. Sorry, timer's going off. So I'm just going to warm this up and warm up the fireplace a little bit. Actually, this extends a little bit, so I'm going to extend this a bit. Maybe this little cat needs some hot chocolate too. Seems like the good time for that. Also, while we have this dark color, we can also use this a little bit for his pupil too, to kind of darken that up a little bit so he's a little less ghost-like and kind of create the shape of the eye. And give it a little definition. Since we're here and kind of can draw in his little paw a little bit. Okay. So I was working on the fireplace and I got sidetracked. So I'm going to use this burnt sienna combo to start shaping this fireplace. Maybe do a couple layers of color here. Just trying to get this to recede a little bit. What's great is with some of these really fine pointed brushes, you can really use them like a pencil because you can really get a nice line in there. I'm going to water this down just a little bit because this is all kind of part of the fireplace area. So I'm going to carefully kind of go around my stockings. Just to help kind of determine what the space is behind the cat. If you didn't draw a line in there, no big deal. You can draw one with your brush to create this wall here. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a little more pigment here of my burnt sienna. You can see it's a little bit darker. And I'm just going to take my brush and kind of draw in these bricks. That might be a little too much pigment, but no worry. Can kind of water it down here. I'm just kind of drawing in these brick shapes. Kind of get in there behind his ear. And if it's still wet, like I'm running into some wet and wet, it'll just diffuse it a little bit out. And then on the wall, if it's dry, you can kind of create these little rectangular shapes here that are offset a little bit that would indicate bricks. It kind of gives it a little bit, I mean, it kind of makes you want to be hanging out with this cat in this cool space. Let's see. Might draw in a line here around it. It kind of depends on how dark you've gotten it there. So lest we forget the cat, we need to get some other features in there for him. And you can choose to use a colored pencil for this or paint. I'm going to go in here with some pink Ochre paint to get his nose going. I can't remember, Laurel, if Leo has a pink nose or not. But this guy, he's got a pink nose. And we need to color in his little name plate too. Just use a little yellow. So also, while I have this yellow, I can start defining some of these donuts here and use for the non-iced portion of them. I mean, I can barely honestly see my donuts here, but we can draw them in with our brush. Yeah, I totally lost this one, I think. But that's okay. Okay, we can get them back. See how easy that is. Okay. So he's starting to look like something now, right? Which is great. If you want to, you can, I kind of want to define this window ledge a little bit. So I'm going to kind of clean up this dish a little bit and put a little of ultramarine blue in here. Not super pigmented, just a little bit darker, while we still have our tape here. You can just create a little variation here between our donut plate for Santa. This will also kind of create a line with our window pane. Now we could really get into detail with our window pane, and maybe that is better to do with our colored pencils. But I'm going to go in and paint. I got to paint one of these donuts pink because I have to use my Ochre pink. And because it has this blue background in there, it's a little bit darker than it would be if it were just painted on white paper. So you can kind of see that we're making this happen. We're creating the shadow and the warmth. Now, if we really wanted to intensify it, we could go in and make this tree even darker. And you can kind of see the difference here between these two. But at first it looks like you're getting the cat too dark or too blue, and then it starts kind of working the way it's supposed to. It's kind of funny because I am ever a student, so I'm always checking out other classes, whether it be digital classes or embroidered classes or even watercolor classes. And what's funny to me is there's always that ugly part in your painting process that you have to go through. And you just have to really kind of persevere through that and know that it's going to get better. But there is a stage where it's just kind of weird looking, doesn't look quite right. And that's just fine. So I've taken this ultramarine blue and mixed it with some burnt sienna just to darken up some areas here and define some areas a little bit. And I am a big, huge fan of layering watercolors, or, you know, you could also call that glazing. So if you wanted to put stripes in your cat, you could do that over the top of a layer with the same color even. Okay, that's probably good enough for this guy for now. I just didn't like this area. But we can always lift. And then I can use this browny gray color. I can use it for an icing on one of these donuts. Kind of get that drawn in. So you can start adding these little details now into our painting. And I feel like I should add some green here. I'm going to try not to get it into my gray color. Couldn't quite see what I was doing there. Okay, how are we doing here? You guys still with me? Still hanging in there? Hey, Colin, it's nice to see you, buddy. Glad that you're able to tune in tonight. Thank you. All right. Let's see. How are we doing? So I'm really curious to see how this tape fared. If water and color got underneath it or not. So I have my X-Acto knife. So as you guys are painting and creating, filling in your details a little bit, I'm going to lift up my tape and see if it did what I wanted it to do. Oh, we have a little leakage here. And with tape, sometimes you just have to go slow and straight back. It sometimes will lift your paper anyway, but you should have a little more success pulling it straight back. So we had some casualties here. Oh, and it's just going to pull up some paper. You're just going to do it all the way down, aren't you? So at this stage, you might be discouraged if this happens to you, but don't be discouraged. Where there's a will, there's a way to fix things. It's going to take up more of my paper. So that looks pretty bad. All right, Laurel's working on some details. That's great. Well, maybe washi tape isn't for the win, but we could go in here with either a darker color or some colored pencil to fix this. I think now is a great time if you're still hanging out with me and you want to keep rolling with me even though we're over an hour. It's a great time to bring in some colored pencils, and they don't have to be anything special. The only thing that you need is a sharpener, and I had one and it is missing, but here it is. Okay. What do they say? Dull pencils create dull drawings. So make sure your points are sharp, which I think is some great advice because you always like having a good point on your pencil anyway. Okay. So let's see, what do I have here for colors? So I have Prismacolors. You can use Kohl, Erase. You can use whatever you want. I'm just going to you can kind of just draw in some details. You can clean up some edges. Maybe, because we don't want this to go all the way down here. Maybe you want to color that a different kind of blue. Let's see, what do I have here? A cool gray. Well, we can fix this by using a different color, and you could just color it in. And we can make our background darker. You could still come back with watercolors and make this even darker, or you can use colored pencil. And it can also, you can maybe use it to your advantage to make it texture. But of course, with a pencil, the great thing about pencil is that you can create a definitive line or barrier. Boy, that red really did bleed in there, didn't it? We'll just kind of do this real quickly. The point is to have fun and to see how you can utilize both warm and cool colors to create a mood, to tell a story. We see that there's a little bit of a fireplace behind this cat, so we know that it's nice, toasty, warm in there. I think this is part. And you can really go to town on this part if you really want to change your window. Yeah, it's looking a little iffy here, but you could also use watercolor pencils too. I haven't used them as much, but I have a few. You could also, for the tree, I mean, we could really get dark here too. So you can see, you can really work on that. I used to have a blender, but I'm not sure if I've got one here. You can kind of smudge that out. But I digress. Let's kind of work on the tree. So what's cool is if we want to use white anywhere, you can use white and it will really show up in this dark stuff, right? So if I want to have a garland that's maybe a light color or lighter than this green, you can just use your pencil over the top of that. You want to do a highlight? You can do highlights real easily over your watercolor. You know, and I'm just lightly sketching in here for my garland, but you could really have fun with it. And if you heat up Prismacolors, they're made of wax, so they can kind of melt and mold into one another. But we'll just kind of use them on their own tonight. And then you can also use these pencils to go in and add details to your bricks if you want. Maybe you need to define that a little bit more. Get into some of these light areas. They're also great for, we want to do maybe the cat's eyes. Now, I'm a big fan of twinkling eyes. So what's great here is maybe he needs a darker pupil. Let's see if I can have, if I have a dark color here. There we go. You can really get that precision. You can also get that with a brush. You just need a small brush to do it. Let's see. And then maybe I just want to put that twinkle in the eye. Now I need a sharper, brush for this, or I mean pencil. Just add, my pencil keeps breaking. Add a little twinkle. If you lose your twinkle, I don't know where my black went. This looks pretty dark. Just drop back in there. And you can really go in and add some details that you can see. You can keep adding stripes. Define some areas that might be a little ambiguous. Add some shadows underneath your icing even. Even, we kind of lost our little plate here. Kind of. You can even add sprinkles to your little donuts here, especially with a lighter color. We didn't add whiskers to this guy, but you totally could. Maybe he's got light whiskers. I mean, you can really have fun with this and really get into it. So how are you guys doing out there? Are you still with me? You can even take, you know, your red pencil and add more red, or use a pink and kind of use a pink to give these more shape. I'm wondering if this is going to make my window look any better. What do you think? I think the pencils are great for going in and kind of refining some stuff. I'm not sure. I feel like we might need to totally change the color of this window, or I might, because mine is looking a little sad. So as you close out tonight and you are getting ready to call it a day, keep in mind a warm light, cool shadows. Cool light, warm shadows. And that might be like a warm brown as a shadow. Sometimes it would be like a warmer purple as a shadow. But it's a good rule of thumb to go by. So what do I have for you here? Let's see. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here. I have a few announcements, and then I think you can be done with me. But if you have questions, throw them down below in chat. I'm able to answer both Facebook and YouTube questions. A big thank you to you guys for tuning in and hanging out with me. It looks like we are almost at an hour and a half, so thank you for doing that. Also, I want to let you know that I have a new video that came out Wednesday that talks about prepping canvases for acrylic paint and oil paint and watercolor ground that you can use on canvases or wood panels. So you may want to check that out over on the YouTube channel. It's a good starter video for people who want to get started painting. Ah, that's so cool. So Laurel says that they're making those into ornaments. I love that. That's a great idea. Awesome. And I'm really glad that you guys were able to join tonight. That was great. So sweet. They just got a new kitty and they can call this Leo kitty now. Let's see what else. So you want to keep up to date on what's happening and what our stream schedule is. You'll need to go over to ihavegumption.com and check out the calendar there. You can find out when I am streaming live. So the next live stream is going to be next Thursday in my Patreon. I haven't decided whether we're going to do the Zoom or we're going to do this, and then I just haven't quite decided. I feel like Colin has missed some of our live streams. So if he can tune into this, he might be able to still participate there in Patreon too. And I have a big thank you for my Patreon subscribers who help make this possible. So Colin and Laurel, thank you very much for supporting this channel and for painting along with me week after week. It's awesome. So thank you. If you want to know more about me and want to see some old videos or what's happening at Gumption, then you can visit ihavegumption.com and you can see some of my work over there and my schedule for my YouTube channel and so on. So let's see if we have any other questions here or comments before we go. It looks like we're good. So if I don't talk to you, have yourself an awesome Christmas. It's coming right up. So hopefully you are ready for that. I know that we are almost ready for Christmas. So that's awesome. Ready for a little time with the fam. All right. Well, thanks. And I will check you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. And I will see you probably next year if I don't see you in Patreon. So take care.